Welcome, everyone.
Who is excited to be here?
I know I am, Charlene.
Well, I'm glad that you are, and we want to thank all of you for participating in Global Mobile, how Salesforce is bridging the gap in emerging markets. I'm Charlene Kaler, and I'm an executive assistant for the commercial sales team here at Salesforce. And co-hosting with me this morning, I have...
I'm Ajete Clarence Asay, business development representative here at Salesforce.com. And Charlene and I have something very unique in common. We are both proud members of Latino Force and Bold Force, which are two employee resource groups that have partnered together to bring you this session here today.
That's right. We have an exciting session planned for you guys, as well as a 30-minute opportunity where you guys are going to get to meet and some of our global community partners that we've invited here today, as well as our panelists.
Absolutely. And please take advantage of networking with our global community partners. These are thought leaders, innovators that are driving community impacts within their local communities. But before we get started, I need everyone to do me a favor. Go ahead and take out your smartphone. Take them out.
We all have one.
We all have one. And we really want you to take in this experience. Take pictures, Facebook, Snapchat, tweet, and hashtag DF14 Global Mobile. Isn't that right, Charlene?
That's right. DF14 Global Mobile is part of this session, and we want all of you to participate in the movement that we're about to show you.
And you know, right now we're living in very, very interesting times. Never before has there been such unprecedented access to smartphone technology and internet. The goal of this session is to not only show you how our customers leverage Salesforce to tap into these emerging markets, but it's to really share with you how they're driving global community impact.
That sounds pretty exciting. I think the audience is ready to see who we're about to bring up on stage.
Absolutely. Please give us a warm round of applause for your moderator, one of the top 100 women in technology, the president and founder of Bold Force, and last but not least, a senior solutions engineer here at Salesforce.com, the decorated Ayori Selassie.
Ayori, thank you. I have the real pleasure of introducing a community hero, a dear friend of ours, the executive director of El Centro Legal de la Raza out of Oakland, California. Let's give a warm round of applause for Bianca Sarah Wolf, everyone.
Guess what, Charlene?
What's going on, Clarence?
I have the CEO and co-founder of Latino Startup Alliance, Mr. Jesse Martinez.
Clarence, we have the honor of introducing the United Nations Global Entrepreneur of the Year, the founder and CEO of Aquario, Mr. K.G. Charles Harris, everyone.
Our next panelist is now not only the former Civic Innovation Officer for the City of San Francisco, but she is the founder of Black Founders, Monique Woodard.
And last but not least, we have the Vice President of Enterprise Solutions at Robert Half, Ms. Christina Boyi. I think we have an exciting lineup. Ayori, what do you think about getting started?
I think we should definitely do it. Let's go.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. And also, I want, this is an intimate session, so I would love if folks could just sort of get a little bit closer, meet your neighbors. We're going to do networking after, so really excited to have you all here. And just to get started, I want to start with introductions. I'll introduce myself. My name is Ayori Selassie. I'm a senior solution engineer here at Salesforce.com. I came here 7 years ago, and prior to that I was at Schneider Electric doing big data before big data was actually big data. And so I'm so glad you guys are all here. We know everyone here is Salesforce enthusiasts, and we hope that when you leave here today you'll be Salesforce enthusiasts and global mobile enthusiasts as well. And so I'll give the folks on our panel an opportunity to introduce themselves as well and share more about themselves, starting with you, Bianca. We know you're doing some amazing stuff in Oakland with your nonprofit. Please tell us about yourself.
Sure, great. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bianca Sierra Wolf. I'm the Executive Director of Centro Legal de la Raza. We're located in Oakland. We are a community law center. We focus mainly on serving low-income, immigrant, and Latino communities. We focus on providing immigration, housing, and employment services. We also have a youth program, and we've been around for almost 46 years now, so I'm very proud to be part of an organization that really has the trust of the community. And I'm really excited to be here, and it's great to be able to bring technology to the low-income community of the East Bay. So thanks for having me here.
And Jesse.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. My name is Jesse Martinez, and I am the co-founder, co-chair, and CEO for Latino Startup Alliance. We were founded back in 2011, so that's when we started our journey. Since then, we've grown organically. We're based here in San Francisco, and our whole mission is to build a foundation that fosters an ecosystem to support Latino tech entrepreneurship globally. And we're excited to be here this morning and looking forward to sharing more about our work with Salesforce and how we're leveraging the mobile platform.
Fantastic, thank you.
My name is KG Charles Harris, and I've worked all over the world. I've, across all the continents in various types of technologies, and I was awarded the UN Prize because of the work we're doing with technology in low-income communities around the world and how we're producing really growth for different types of communities. But I'm here really as a representative of my company, Quario, which has developed a technology where you can use mobile to really get access to all of the information from your databases, that you can actually just talk to the computer or your cell phone, and it gives you answers based upon the kinds of questions you ask. So we are pushing something that's called conversational analytics. So you can actually speak to your systems the way you speak to another person, and it will give you answers. So with auto-generated graphs and charts and everything. So that's what we're doing, and the impact that this will have on global communities. We're presently in test in Canada, Australia, and the UK, in addition to the United States.
Thank you, KG.
Hi, everyone. I'm Monique Woodard, and I have a pretty long and extensive background in product and marketing and innovation and technology. My focus areas are consumers, commerce, and citizens. I am a former innovation fellow for the city of San Francisco, where I worked on access to internet, strategic partnerships, open data, and civic entrepreneurship. I'm a huge advocate for entrepreneurs. I am the founder of Black Founders, which is a national organization dedicated to increasing the number of successful Black entrepreneurs in tech and having a positive impact on tech diversity.
Hi, I'm Christina Bui. I'm Vice President of Enterprise Solutions for Robert Half. Fortunately, I'm not as old as the company. We have been around for 66 years, and we are based right here in Menlo Park. My role within the company is to focus on helping companies expand and grow by providing the staffing solutions and consulting, and to help the company build their infrastructure in finance and IT, and then and take them to a successful exit, either an IPO and M&A. We are a global staffing and consulting firm, and our wholly owned subsidiary is Protiviti.
Fantastic. This is a great panel. I just want to start out giving you all another round of applause. And we have some really exciting questions. So I just want to go ahead and start off with defining emerging markets and just really set the table here. So I would love to start with you, Jesse. How do we define emerging markets?
That's a great question. I think from our perspective, it's being able to look at the global Latino community and being able to connect one another as we look at Latino Startup Alliance, and part of our mission in being able to support Latino tech entrepreneurs across the world is, how do we keep up to date with them? So 1, our members, 2, our partners, and then 3, our funders. And so being able to leverage a platform that's flexible in doing so, and also being able to support our members through information on a local basis, whether that be here in the US or in Mexico or in Brazil. So we actually have members spanning from España to Mexico, Brazil. So I think that flexibility and also the additional support of all the Salesforce partners that exist within the ecosystem.
Great, great. And then Monique, I know you had some comments about the domestic definition of emerging markets.
Sure. So I think, first of all, the idea of emerging markets has been around for a while. And traditionally, a lot of people think of it as just the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And you really have to now move beyond the BRIC nations and think about other global areas like Indonesia, like other Latin American countries that are developing, like the Middle East, like South Africa, but also think domestically about which markets are emerging and what are they doing, which areas have a growing middle class, which groups are coming online in a huge number, and which are using mobile in huge numbers. Latinos and Black Americans are using mobile, and they are over-indexing on mobile usage. So those are two huge communities that are emerging domestically. You see that in, just look at your television. Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder and Blackish are huge television shows because advertisers want to capitalize on that growing Black middle class market. The new show Cristela is huge, and advertisers want to capitalize on the Latino market. So those markets are not global, but they are domestic, and those are also places that I would look if you're looking to kind of grow your business and looking to grow it domestically.
Great, thank you. And KG, what about you as Entrepreneur of the Year? How do you define emerging markets? I'm going to pick on you all day now.
My perspective, I think there are so many ways of defining, and we've heard of two very good ones so far. I would look at the emerging markets from the perspective of what's really changing and what's emerging into the market today. One of those areas is technology. And one of the areas where technology is really changing things is that within these communities, and technology is really having a sea change, right? We're seeing where gaming, where the use of smartphones and so on in these areas, both domestically and internationally, are having a great change. But that also means that the way you're running your business is going to have to change. So the old types of enterprise systems that have been around since the 70s, 80s, like SAP, for example, will have to change how they're thinking and how they're doing. Not to seem sycophantic, but Salesforce just announced a product called Wave, which, if you look at their mobile user interface, all of a sudden analytics is a completely different way of being able to access your data from Salesforce. This is changing the way that people who actually work with Salesforce and all the other enterprise systems will have to work. What Quarrier is doing is the next level of this. Human interface. So just speak to your computer. Well, anyone can speak, and anyone can understand someone who does speak. Most people can type. And so given that that is the level of things, meaning that you don't have to use SQL to access data, is an emerging market. So robotics, or artificial intelligence, and those things that we're working with, that's an emerging market too.
Great, great. You actually sort of segued a little bit into our next question around the key drivers of opportunity in these emerging markets. And I think that analytics conversation is really critical to that, because we're able to see more data as it's changing in real time, and we're able to respond to that data as well. But I'm interested in what you all have to say about that. Jesse, do you have any comments about what else is driving these opportunities?
Well, I think it's looking at how are we driving innovation within the Latino tech community, and what are the tools and resources being used. And so being able to identify partners to help us build upon that. And I think as we look at the landscape, what can we do? How can we better leverage technology in our work and also in our members' work?
Great, great. And Monique, did you have anything to add to that?
Sure. As KG mentioned, the platforms that are being used are changing. There are a huge number of new users coming online thanks to cheaper internet and smartphone adoption. So those markets are definitely going to be emerging. Those markets are definitely places where people should be concentrating their efforts. You also have to look at the rise of the global middle class. The middle class and people with a disposable income over $50,000 is rapidly rising in Mexico, and by 2020 will increase about 50%. There will be about 1 billion people in China who are considered part of the middle class, and that's about 70% of the Chinese population. So those sorts of statistics point to looking at ways that those consumers can be delivered new services, new products. So there's tremendous opportunity in those sort of middle class markets.
Great, and we certainly saw that over the last 15 years in India as their middle class grew, and we're expecting to see more of that in Latin America and then Africa moving on as well. Christina, what about you? Do you have anything to add to this?
Yes, well, I'd like to focus on the global war on talent. I mean, there is a huge competition for highly skilled workers with in-demand experiences and talent. Why? There are two reasons. First is the baby boomers are retiring, and the companies have to have a succession plan. And also, there is a serious skill gap in critical areas, especially in technology and healthcare. There is a large shortage of skilled workers in those two areas. For example, even in China, right, there are only 2 million managers with the right managerial and language capabilities that's sufficient for multinational companies. And the turnover rate is 30 to 40% of senior managers within divisions of multinational companies in China. So there's a large scarcity of skilled managers and workers. And we see that there is, especially in IT, finance, legal, cybersecurity, administrative, and the other opportunity is 70% of the world's population is using the mobile phone to look for jobs and also find jobs. So there is a big opportunity there.
Great, great. And you touched a little bit on the health conversation. Health and life sciences is a really huge market for Salesforce, and we saw actually one of the largest IPOs. It might have been earlier this year of Vivo, which is built on the Salesforce technology. And so, yeah. I mean, I think we're definitely seeing sort of this some key areas that are really coming to the forefront, and the health technology is definitely one of them. Cool. And then also, I want to talk a little bit about how some organizations today are leveraging the mobile technology to capitalize on these emerging markets. And I know you have a really interesting story, Bianca, that you can share with us.
Sure. So I think part of what makes the mobility now of technology so exciting is that it's really allowing services to be provided in sort of areas that we wouldn't think. So for example, at Centro Legal, we provide legal services. And traditionally, when you think of the legal service model, you think of you go to the attorney's office. It's one office, there you go. And it's basically, because of limited resources, it's just whoever happens to have an idea that office is there to get that service. At Centro Legal, once we started using Salesforce and we started using the mobile app, we saw that we were able to take our services pretty much anywhere we needed to go. So instead of just being limited to being in Oakland, we've been able to take our legal clinics to community centers, churches, schools, and a lot of underserved areas. It's really allowed us to raise our visibility, which has helped us increase funding, which in turn allows us to serve even more people. One of the things that we were able to do is that we were able to go to Livermore, which doesn't really have any legal service agencies. And it was really powerful that we were able to set up this legal clinic, and we had people who came to us who basically had all these legal rights that they didn't know about. We had people who actually had the right to stay in this country and adjust their status, and they had no idea. And so it's really, really life-changing, and I think the opportunities are just I mean, it's just the sky's the limit in terms of opportunities, in terms of what you can do, because now our attorneys can go set up a clinic pretty much anywhere that they think that there might be an underserved population. They can input all of the information that they need for their case and for us to track just using the mobile app. So it's really powerful.
I love that. And yesterday we had a really wonderful story on stage in the Dev Zone in Moscone West, where Estella, she's like a 77-year-old woman, and she runs this mobile bus. And so she drives this bus around with computer workstations inside, and she's able to go into these different communities. She works a lot with immigrant populations and underserved populations. And what really sort of blew my mind about her story is not only is she taking mobile technology to a new level and actually making it mobile, but what has enabled her to do this is that now we're running our databases on our phone and on our tablet, so she can do registration right then and there on the spot to manage intake of clients and parents and signing release forms and all that stuff. So I want to take a short opportunity to just query some of the folks in the room and say, who has been able to see some of the presentations at Dreamforce so far about our new mobile innovations? Just raise your hand if you have. No? Okay, so not many people have. So today, definitely make sure you get to our keynotes, Mark's keynote. You're going to really love some of the information that we display there. And I think it'll pick your interest as we continue to have this conversation throughout the rest of Dreamforce. And I want to dovetail back to you, Christina, and talk a little bit about the talent conversation. Because going into these emerging markets, we know it's complicated, but one of the key enablers is finding the right talent to help you be successful in those markets. Can you share some best practices or ideas?
Yes, so there's a furious war on talent, and to win in emerging markets, companies really have to be able to embrace massive changes and reallocate resources very quickly. Of course, one solution is increasing salary so that you can attract the best talent. But for the recruiting industry, those of us in the recruiting industry, we know that that's just a temporary solution. So you really have to come up with some creative programs. It's not creative here in the US, but you really have to bring the things that we do great here, which is like L'Oreal, they are the top, they attract top female talent because they provide better working hours for women, have a child care facility, and also have a better transparent communication style within the company. So the top female talent likes to work with at L'Oreal in South Korea. And in Asia, Nestle and Motorola, they have employee programs where they develop relationships with employees' families. And another example is at Cisco and HSBC. They have a global career path and mobility programs for their emerging market managers. So it's sort of second, nature to us here, but we really have to do those wonderful things in the emerging markets to get the best talent.
That's great, yeah. And Monique, what about you? Do you have anything to add to that piece around the talent?
I think it really requires reaching outside your existing network. If you've only done work in one market and you're trying to break into another, it's really about reaching outside your existing network to find and embrace the kind of talent that you might find in someone else's network. And really looking for people who are passionate about that market, people who understand the market, and people who have some experience in it. And that might not happen with the person, getting a person that you have inside your company. You might have to reach outside your company and suck those people in and really give them the benefits and the salary and all of that stuff that attracts them to your company.
So if I'm in the audience here, then I can come to anyone on this panel and get that done today?
Definitely, Christina. Hit her up.
Awesome. So let's see, what do we have next? Yeah, picking the right opportunity. So how do you pick the right opportunity to say, my business needs to grow. I know my next billion customers are going to look different from my first billion customers. but how do I make that decision about what opportunity to go after in that?
There are so many opportunities in emerging markets right now that it feels like you could make anything work. I mean, the luxury markets in Brazil and China are huge. So you could sell anything from a handbag to a SaaS solution. It's really all about your business and tailoring it for that market. But I really feel like the area is wide open, and there's a tremendous area of opportunity for you to enter a lot of these markets.
Great. And I want to shift over a little bit to measurements. We haven't talked about measurements yet. And KG, I know you have some opinions on this, but the measurements of success in emerging markets are most likely going to be different than domestic markets. What tips do you have about that or ideas?
Well, I've been accused of having too many opinions about too many things. So one of the things that I think is important is to understand the essence of the changes that we're going through, right? Just like there was a major change from the mainframes to the mini computers, and then from the mini computers to the PCs, now there's a major change from PCs over into mobile technology, right? And it's going to be as big as all of these other changes have been, and as game-changing as these other changes have been. And for us to look at measuring success, it means that we need to understand the fundamental factors that these changes bring about, right? So one of the things that I want to say is that, first of all, we are able to touch many, many more people than we were able to touch before, right? So it is not just people, everybody. I mean, I went to Guyana last year it was, and spent some time in Guyana, and was amazed that way out into the jungle, 18 hours on some, little, truck into the jungle, way out into this gold mining community, there are people who actually have internet access and who are on Facebook. That blew my mind, right? It completely blew my mind, because these are people who have never seen a computer, but they're on Facebook, right? So that means that we can reach people with advertising, we can change their purchasing patterns, we can change demand in a completely different way, right? And so that is one measure of success. Who buys what? The second thing I want to say is that what does success look like in emerging markets? It looks very different than success looks like here. Because here we have a traditional way of going about things. First you get a telegraph, then you get the telephone, then you get the cell phones, and then you get the smartphones. Well, in emerging markets, that's all jumped over. So we leapfrog those kinds of technologies, right? So what would look like a good executive in those old ways is not necessarily what's going to be a good executive using the new technologies, right?
That's a great point. And I want to also have Christina put her 2 cents in on that one as well.
In 2025, the total consumption is going to triple from 2010 to about 30 trillion. So, look at the opportunity within emerging markets. But how do you expand? You need to build leadership. And so given the leadership requirements within emerging markets, companies are going to have to really set very ambitious target goals. And what we're seeing is that they're going to have to multiple their leaders tenfold, and within 1/10 of the time it takes here. So how are you going to do that? And you really have to get creative. I'll give you an example. In India, the Reliance Group is the largest private employer. They had to build a leadership team of 200 to help their growth initiatives. And how did they do that? They just focus on 28 to 34-year-olds, trying to recruit people through the business schools, and then getting help from management experts, and then building professional development programs. And I think, just to KG's point, we can bring the people here. I'm part of a great organization called Open a Door Foundation, and we provide Fulbright scholarships to women in war-torn countries like Rwanda and Nigeria, and they are so excited about having a full education here and going back to their countries to to help their countries grow. And I think that is very exciting for our global economy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that global exchange, that cultural exchange, understanding how the cultures are different, how they view time differently, and the business growth patterns as well, with that leapfrogging of technology. So I'm going to go ahead and segue into our next question about technology itself. And we're actually running a little bit over time. So I think this will be our last question, and then we'll take some Q&A from the audience. But how do you pick the right technology? You all, Bianca, you all were able to really pick some technology that helped you excel in a really quick way. But what were your thought process around that, and how did you do that?
Sure. So about a year ago, Centro Legal was looking for a new client database. So a database that would manage all of our client information. We'd been using a clunky database that was sitting on a server, and we knew that as we were growing, it just wasn't keeping up with our needs. So as we started to research, we started to think about not just what our current needs were, but also long-term and in the future. And while there were other databases that might have been cloud-based or that had, traditionally served the function for attorneys, we found that if we purchased one of those, we were stuck with that. It wasn't really going to be customizable. It wasn't going to really be able to change, and it wasn't going to allow us to grow in the way that we needed to. And that was really why we chose Salesforce, because of the customization. It was based on a cloud, and now we're very happy because we have the mobile app and we're able to take it with us. But really, it has allowed us to think big, and it's allowed us to respond quickly to crisis and need. There's currently a very large refugee crisis that's going on. Many young children are fleeing from Central America, and as our numbers of people who are coming to us, these children seeking legal services, started to increase, we realized that we needed to respond to them and to really meet that need. And to do that, we really needed to track how many of these children are we seeing, how many of them have actual valid asylum claims. And we're able to work with a great consultant, and we're able to customize and really make changes. So I think that that's really the key in picking the right technology, is finding one that is customizable and that really allows you to grow and to think big picture. And that has made a huge difference for us.
And I'm hearing sort of a theme around risk mitigation as well, because if you're going into a new market, you're not going to want to invest a ton of money in staging up servers and stuff like that. So the multi-tenant cloud infrastructure really helps with that. But then also the mobile technology. So you need to be able to build your mobile solutions very quickly to be able to be active in those regions. So I think those are all some things that really are going to help you to sort of leverage that leapfrog in technology and really grow your business fast. So with that, I want to go ahead and open up the floor for questions. If anyone had questions for anyone on the panel here, or even myself from a Salesforce standpoint. And we have some mics going around in the room, so just go ahead, raise your hand if you have some questions or you want to add a comment to the dialogue. I see someone down here on the left-hand side. And just go ahead, introduce yourself, and then give us your question or comment.
My name's Brian. I'm a co-founder of a company called Made Solid. We make materials for 3D printers. And my question was around 3D printing. There's a lot of technology innovation going on in that space right now. But then once we make that innovation, we're roughly like 18 months from getting it ripped off from emerging markets. And so I was kind of curious how you thought emerging companies should think about investing in emerging markets when protecting their technology is extremely difficult.
It's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe that that where the innovation is really going to be is in the emerging markets. So anything that we're doing here at this point is going to have a global impact. But anything that we do here is going to also have a bounce back effect. So we'll affect what's happening out there, and then it's going to bounce back on us. So we had better, as innovators, invest in emerging markets, and sooner rather than later. Because as you say, they're going to catch up, and they're going to catch up quickly, and they're going to be exceedingly aggressive, and they're going to have certain advantages that we don't have here. So we have certain advantages here that we capitalize on, and therefore we can develop technologies such as yours and mine, right? But if we don't think about it from a global perspective, you know, there are more bright people outside America than in America.
And I would also just like to add a little bit to that. If you're going into an emerging market with some really new and innovative technology, there are pros and cons to that. There's one benefit in that those emerging markets are going to be a little bit quieter. It's not going to spread, you know, as fast. So I think you're able to pilot and try things out and prove the success of them in some of these emerging markets, and almost with a little bit more safety. But I think it's also important to make sure that you're able to go into that with global partners who are already vested in seeing you prove the technology, so that as soon as you've proven it, you can really push it forward and scale fast and spread it out a lot more globally. So some of our partners like you know, TechCrunch, or some of our venture partners, you want to get them involved, you know, as early as possible, but you have to make sure that it's someone that you can trust and they're really already vested in you. Any other questions from the audience? All right, got one up here. And introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Melissa Kinkle, and I am a customer. So kind of to piggyback off of what he said, I think the question really is if you look at the way you know, American companies look at emerging markets, there is an us and them mentality instead of kind of the global reach. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But when you think about that, and you think about the fact that it's a contradicting premise where you want to grow and outreach, and you want it to reach global markets, but then there's this is us, and people are stealing our technology and that sort of thing. I mean, even from a talent perspective, I think my question is, how do you get the best talent when American companies are very resistant to sharing?
I think it's all about, I mean, really it's building trust and understanding the culture and really understanding the, you know, the people in the local markets. And it's like, you know, it is all a relationship building and building the trust. That's where it all comes from. And I think it takes time, and it's especially the Asian culture, it's a lot of relationship building and trusting and dining together at people's homes and understanding the culture. And like one of the companies embrace, you know, getting to know the employees' families. That's the only, you know, that's the only way, because that's how these cultures work.
Great. Great. Any other questions from the audience? We have time for one more question.
May I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
You know, here in America, we're very spoiled, right? We have a large market. Everybody speaks the same language. It's basically the same laws that cover everything. There's a highway network, you know, broadband network, this, that, and the other. That's not how other markets look. I mean, just stepping across the pond to Europe, you know, you see a highly fragmented market, many different languages, but it's worth investing there because there's a lot of money. But as to your point about us and them, it doesn't look the same outside. I mean, we have to think differently, and I don't think that it's a situation where we don't want to share. It's that we're so stuck in our mindset that we can't really operate well in emerging markets. And that's the essence. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all for. Oh, we have one question here.
My name is Amin Mufti. I'm a partner with Salesforce. We have an app on the App Exchange. So regarding platform, the mobile platform for Salesforce is Salesforce One. Unfortunately, in emerging markets where connectivity isn't great, you don't have offline capability. So is Salesforce considering developing a solution that meets the needs of emerging markets? Because we've lost customers because of that, actually.
Yeah, no, offline is really is a huge thing. And absolutely, I would have to go back to our safe harbor slide. Hold on. But yeah, definitely we have an increase in offline capabilities in Salesforce. And yeah, so, I mean, this is a great way to end our panel because having this conversation about the emerging markets and what the needs are, I think it really gives you an opportunity to evaluate the Salesforce product from the perspective of what your needs are in that market. So offline capabilities, multi-languages, how quickly you can deploy mobile applications, how quickly you can scale up your services so that you can grow from that small emerging market to the global demand that your business is needing. And I really like this conversation. I think it's a more forward-thinking conversation. We're not just talking about hard technology. We're really talking about the challenges in growing your business. Your next billion customers are going to be different than your first billion. An extra billion is a lot. But we need that growth, and we need a platform, and we need partners, technology, and friends, really, who are going to help us be successful. And I think that this room is full of them. And so I really want to welcome you all to, as you go into networking, consider that, meet each other, and, make friends as you go throughout the rest of the conference, you can come back and trade notes and be more successful. So I'll hand the floor back to Charlene and
That's right, guys. So we're going to wrap this up, but please stay here. We're going to have about 20 minutes before the Hillary Rodham Clinton keynote starts, and we're going to be broadcasting it from this ballroom. So you don't need to go anywhere. There's plenty of food in the back. So grab something to drink, and the panelist is actually going to be in the room. So if you guys have any more questions that you'd like to ask them personally, they're going to be here for about another hour. Okay? So thank you very much for participating.